Hey, go Falcons, man. National
Absolutely.
champ,
Go
baby.
Falcons. Woo! Welcome to the Left Hash Call. You can probably assume, also by looking at the hat, what this episode is all about today. The University of Wisconsin River Falls are national champions for the first time in program history. It feels weird still even saying that right now. I feel like the last, 72 hours have been like a dream almost. Like I keep waking up and wondering, like, did that actually just happen? Did that really just happen? And it's been that way for weeks now. And it was, I can't believe we just beat Whitewater. I can't believe we just beat La Crosse and guaranteed a share of the conference championship. I can't believe we just beat Stout and guaranteed, clinched the WIAC title outright. I can't believe we're hosting a playoff game. I can't believe we won a playoff game. I can't believe we're in the quarterfinals for the first time. We're in the semis for the first time. We beat St. John's. I can't believe Blake Rohr had the most amazing play of all time. I can't believe Caleb won the Gallardi. I can't believe we're going to the national championship. I can't, all this stuff, right? And this takes the cake, right? It does. It's the culmination. I don't truly know really how to put into words what this thing means to me and to so many others. And certainly there's a lot of River Falls content coming out of this particular program, and you will hear no apologies from me because this is my team. This is a team that believed in me when nobody else really did. This is a head coach that took a chance on me when no other coaches were when I was in the transfer portal and trying to find a new home. This is a coach that after I blew up my Achilles said, you should be on this coaching staff. You should be here. You should continue to fight with us, and gave me an opportunity that I never knew that I really wanted. And so I don't know how to put into words sometimes, but this is my rendition of it. This is as close as I can get to putting it into words. And so that's what I'm going to do. We also have a very exciting guest. Stay tuned for that. He'll be here with us in a little bit, but I want to go through some of my thoughts first. But myself, along with just to kind of go over the game and what it was like for me, I guess on Sunday is, we got in there on Friday. Myself, my dad, Maisie, Maisie's dad, Maisie's brother. We got in there on Friday and toured the Hall of Fame, did the whole thing, and we. The myself along with the Division I Rejects crew were fortunate enough to go down to do our show, Small School Saturday from Canton, and it was easily our best show yet. The guests that we had Luke Lanen on, we had Pat Coleman, Greg Thomas, and Keith McMillan on. First of all, I can't say enough good things about those guys from D3Football.com. They came on to preview the game with us, and they were kind of an alternating guest. And I was actually also fortunate enough to go on their show Around the Nation, the night before the game, or I believe it was Friday night, and then it released on Saturday. I was able to shoot it up with those guys and talk about the game and preview it a little bit and give my thoughts. And then also I was given the opportunity to be a sideline reporter for the first time for that game, and that was a fun opportunity that I can't thank Pat enough for giving me that chance to. And those guys are top-notch humans, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to continue to cover D3 football and specifically cover my own Falcons this year. This game, and I've talked about that. I talked about this on the Extravaganza show, and I talked about this, on Division I Rejects, and I talked about this on. I said this a lot, but when North Central first came into this season when North Central first won their first national championship back in 2019, they were playing the then dynasty, which was Whitewater. Obviously, Mount Union was still very much relevant in that, but the North Central was fighting and clawing and could never get over what they just like the Augustana hump, like Coach Spencer talked about that. And they were playing Whitewater, who was the dynasty at the time. And for them, like they felt like they skipped all these steps. And in the same year, River Falls was 2-8. They hadn't had a winning record in almost 20 years. And so you fast forward to 2023, and Cortland beats North Central in a very similar way as to what happened last week. And then finally, a team in 6 years has been to 6 straight Stag Bowls, 6 straight national championships. They're right in the middle of their dynasty, right? And Coach Spencer said, I don't like using dynasty because you got to win back to back. You got to do all that to call yourself a dynasty. But anytime you're in 6 straight Stag Bowls, that's a dynasty, man. And so you're playing, the dynasty, ahead of, a game that you maybe shouldn't win, and a game that nobody probably picked you to win, except for maybe somebody right here. Me and Adam Cowles, and Mikey Schultz picked him, but at least the publications that I saw, and Pat Coleman, I believe, picked him too. But it's like the bookend of 2 different dynasties, right? Like Whitewater's dynasty, North Central beat them, and then you get to this game, and it's like the bookend of that dynasty. And I'm not saying like River Falls is like going to go on to do anything. I'm just comparing the 2, and it's just crazy how those 2. It's like this perfect nucleus of games and teams coming together. So there's a lot of thoughts running through my head with this whole thing, and you could talk about Coach Walker and the journey he's gotten to be here. 15 years at River Falls. Had a teams that won 1, teams that won none, teams that won 2, and the CBS Sports put out. ESPN was great and they covered the game, but CBS Sports put out his video specifically of him talking about that, and I think I've watched it maybe 30 times at this point because it gets me emotional. It makes me very, very emotional watching him talk about that because, again, personally, I think about him giving me a chance when nobody else wanted this freshman or this transfer portal 5th-year senior quarterback. Nobody wanted me, and there's only one guy that emailed me back or texted me back, and it was him. And I think about my time being in that office every day, and because of that, you spend hours and hours and hours with those guys, and you have a bond that I don't think you can really get from another job or another profession. And I haven't really been in that office in 2 years, but I still, that bond is never going to go away. I think about Coach Matheson taking me under his wing and teaching me everything that he knew and pushing me and giving me hard truths at times. And I also think about the night before that game at Jersey's Sports Bar and Grill, the night before the game. I think about there being standing room only in that place, and there's it feels like there's 1,000 people in that restaurant, and everybody is smiling and just there for one cause. It's there to support the Falcons, whether they were parents, whether they were alumni, whether it was administrators. Everybody was there. And then they walked the team through they did the Falcon walk through the restaurant, and it was the coolest Falcon walk in the history of the program. And I also think about, on a personal note, on top of that, without River Falls, I never would have met my fiance Maisie. Never would have happened. And so after the game was over, I was so emotional, and I was bawling my eyes out, and it might have come across as a little excessive maybe, but it was like, for me, it was just all of those emotions coming out at once. And it didn't really hit me until I looked up at the Jumbotron, and Coach Walker's holding that trophy. And that's when it hit me, and I just lost it. And Coach Walker's wife's sister came up to me like during the celebration, it was like, Seth, you look like you need a cigarette. And I was like, you know what? Might be the day to start. But and on top of that, man, I've been out of it for like 4 days since we won that thing, and but it's pure joy that I think about with this, and how incredible was that game on top of that. And here, some of my thoughts from my seat during that game is, first and foremost, Jake Wissing, man, and that Cobra Kai defense, what they were able to do. And this is a tweet I saw that North Central had scored at least 20 points in 101 consecutive games. And that goes all the way back to when they scored 7 points against St. John's in 2017. And that is absolutely absurd. I also learned that Coach Wissing does, in fact, have a twin brother that sounds exactly like him, looks exactly like him. And when I'm on the field and I hear Coach Wissing's exact voice from the stands, and I'm like, that's weird. And so I turn around and I see Coach Wiss in the stands. I was very concerned because I was like, why is Coach Wissing in the stands right now? It was, like I said, a little concerning, but apparently he has a twin brother, looks exactly like him, sounds just like him, and is a coach on top of that. So shout out to Kelsey for the tweet in there, because that was wild. But second thing, it's Caleb. Man, that dude never ceases to amaze me. And he won the Glardy Trophy, the D3 Heisman, the nation's top player in Division III football. He wins the Glardy Trophy. Then he, obviously wins the national championship, player of the game, all this good stuff. I have a graphic that I'm working on right now that Coach Matheson will probably put out eventually of all of the. I tried to put it together, a list of all the superlatives that he's ever done, and I tried my hardest, and it was hard, but I think we got close. And there's all these things, but then he breaks Joe Burrow's record for total offense in a season. I mean, Joe Burrow was like the greatest college quarterback ever, like one season, right? And so this season, man, he is on the Mount Rushmore for greatest D3 football players, if not greatest college football players of all time. And there isn't a debate when it comes to greatest D3 football players of all time. He's on the Mount Rushmore for sure after this year. Not only because of that and winning the Glardy Trophy, winning a national championship. Like, people have done that before, right? But to break that record, to beat 10 playoff teams. They beat 10 playoff teams. Alma, Co, Whitewater, Platteville, La Crosse, and then obviously you get into playoffs. Chapman, St. John's, Wheaton, Johns Hopkins, and North Central. Is that a record for ever, the whole time? And then you break the record for all-time offense. You win 14 games, and like you break every record ever in the same season after the program that you were at was in the gutter for 1,000 years. It felt like. So how is this not one of the greatest seasons of all time by not only a player but by a college football team ever? It's insanity, and it's unmatched, and it's etched in the history of college football. And I was actually fortunate enough to meet Coach Spencer, obviously during our small school Saturday, but also actually right after the game, after his press conference. Him and Coach Walker were walking like this, and I accidentally got down there because I had to give Pat Coleman his mic back because I was doing the announcer thing, and so I was just going to go to the press conference and just sit there and then give Pat his mic back. But him and Coach, so I was with Coach Walker right here, and Coach Spencer was coming like this, and they started talking for a little bit. And once they were done talking, I just, I wanted to say hello. And what a you talk about a guy winning and losing with grace. This guy could have been standoffish, not talk to anybody, but he was so nice and so kind. And I can't say enough good things about my interaction with him. And man, it's no surprise why they've been in this position and why they continue to be in this position. And to put a bow on, I guess, my thoughts on this whole deal, I'm so overjoyed. I'm so happy. I think about like guys like, guys that I played with, and I think about guys that have introduced themselves to me from previous seasons and previous teams, guys that were on the 0-10 team, or guys that were on the 2-8 team, guys that were, you name it. Like, these guys just, they care so much about Falcon football, and they always have. And and I also think about, like, one of my best friends, Matt, who was on, he was the starting center for the 23 season. I think about him, and I think about guys like Cade Fitzgerald, who he came here, was a year behind Caleb, and knew he was going to be the backup. Could have transferred at any point. Maybe one of the best quarterback, would be a starter on 99% of other teams in this country, but decided and chose to be here. And he chose to be here. And last year when Caleb got hurt, stepped in, got hurt, came back in and fought his ass off to be here. And then, again, could have probably transferred again and comes back for another year and comes in when Caleb needs a breather, or when they're up big. And then he against St. John's, comes in, for some relief duty at the end of the game, and gets hurt again and has a season-ending injury, and just does everything with a smile on his face. And it's those type of guys for why this thing is where it's at now. Obviously, it's because of, guys like Caleb and Gage Tim, who is absolute animal, by the way. And Jack Olson, who had one of the most amazing football players I've ever seen in my life. And guys like Cody Curtis and guys like Blake Rohr and guys like, it's because of those guys, right? Like that we won this thing this year. But it's also because of guys like Andy Grubner and Mason Van Zeelen and Alex Klecker and Dom Turner and Cal Rosine and Caleb Johnson and Schumacher and Borgerding and Michael Brown and Conrad. I could name every single one of I feel like I could name every single one of my teammates that I played with. And that's my perspective, right? Thinking about Coach Walker and all the teams that he coached before this one, right? And so, it's emotional for me because, I've covered this team all year. We did Small School Saturday from River Falls for our first show, and then we finished it up with them. Like, how sweet is that? And so, like, from my seat, man, like, it's I couldn't have asked. You couldn't have written up a better story this year. Like, you couldn't have written it up any better. And the opportunity to do this, like, have this show, do this extravaganza when they won the dang thing, and do Small School Saturday twice for a Riv game, like, and one of them was in the Natty. Like, you couldn't have asked. Like, you couldn't have drawn up a better, there's movies that have wilder, they're less wild stories than that. So, yeah. And I know a lot of you listening are mostly probably Riv fans right now. A lot of you are. And I want to say, to kind of put a bow on this thing, how grateful I am for your support of this show. When I was down there in Canton, man, like, I knew that I was doing the right thing when I was down there. For sure. I already kind of had an idea, but I knew that I was doing something right. And I knew that I was feeling the love. I mean, I walked in there, the first person I saw, Johnny Frank's dad, and brought me and my whole family around. And I feel like I got a million hugs from people just saying thank you for covering this thing this year. So to everybody that said those nice things and reaches out on social media and says all these kind words, it's I can't put into words how much it means to me. And like, all this, man, all of this, like, so I mean, there's a lot more fun ahead with this show for sure. But like, this year, man, like this was for walks and for Joe and covering this thing, man, trying to do it the right way. And I'm grateful for everybody letting me do this silly show. And it's not like we got millions of followers and make a bunch of money doing it or covering this. It doesn't matter to me. If one day it's an opportunity, it's great. But like, I did not do this for me. Like I did this because of all the people that have been so kind and the people that believed in me to do anything that I tried to do. And so, I appreciate all of you. You Falcon fans, you parents and alums, and like Crystal Lanning and Trent Jackson, who just continue to just be like, yeah, whatever you want to do, and the relationships that I've made over this past year and will continue to make is unbelievable. And I'm just so freaking grateful, so blessed to be able to do this. And thank you times a million. So, yeah. Now we have a great guest. And to talk more about a national championship at UW River Falls, we have a former fullback who ran like a freight train and blocked like he was angry at the earth. Started off at Division III football at UWRF and racked up over 1,000 yards his freshman year before deciding, yeah, I'm going to go walk on at a Power 5 school and blow those linebackers there too. Ended up leading one of the nastiest rushing attacks in the country, made Sports Illustrated covers, ran for a 57-yard touchdown in the Fiesta Bowl, broke face masks, broke defenders, and may have broken a few laws of physics as well. Then he took that same energy to the NFL and later to the barbecue pit and a stage with a guitar in hand, the runaway beer truck, legend of college football, Owen Schmitt. How are you today, man?
Pretty good, brother. How are you doing? Has your liver recovered?
It's funny. That game got over at like 1 a.m. and then I went to the press conference and then the bars closed at like 2:30. So like I really didn't get to have a ton. It was probably more the night before that I was trying to recover from the night before the game at like the alumni meetup. So, but yeah, not too bad at this point though. So,
Well, that's good.
For you, obviously this is cool to see, a school that you started off your career at win the national championship from your seat, both figuratively and literally at the game. What was it like seeing River Falls get to this point?
Oh man, it's been a wild journey. I got pulled in the O'Grady days, so we were a hardcore triple option team, as traditional as you get, and you know, River Falls. My grandfather went to River Falls, played running back there. Uh, so it's been there's been a special place in the family, and Coach O has been he was friends of my grandfather's for a long time. They did Kenner Camp in Gilman
Hmm.
for a couple decades. So it's been very near and dear to my heart. But being able to watch this kind of journey, Matt's journey, uh, kind of build up and grow has been something else. And this year especially, obviously I'm in West Virginia, so I can't just come to the games whenever I want. So it was awesome, especially once the playoff run started. I was able to watch them on ESPN, and I was kind of just jotting back and forth with Joe and Matt, and just saying, hey, you guys are doing a hell of a job. Like, this is so awesome. Um, Especially, where the program has been and what it's had to overcome to get there. Now, when I was going there, and this was before when the Chiefs were actually using River Falls as a practice facility back in the day. But now you guys have this like lovely new like athletic facility. I mean, it's and I made some comments that I've been fortunate to go to a Division I program and to visit others and to go to the NFL and see what facilities look like at other places, and that is something special that you guys have there, and what a recruiting tool and I'm sure it's helped tremendously throughout what Matt's been doing. But just for me to kind of step back and you know Sunday at the game, I got to meet up with John Petterlick and Aaron Greisen and Jake and I saw Bo there as well. And to see those guys 20 years, some years removed, and just we were all so jacked up because River Falls is a very special place, and just to see getting some attention. I mean, this is what happens when hard work and grit and determination and strain takes over. And I've been diving into some of Matt's interviews and stuff, and seeing how really they just said, hey, look, we're going to go for this no huddle deal. And that's kind of where I'm coming back to. Rich Rodriguez's schemes were much, hey, we're going to get as many plays as we can, right? We're going to play as fast as we physically can. And you could see that apparent on Sunday in the game as well. In that second half, I mean, it was starting to suck wind a little bit, right? And you
Yeah.
could see it taking its toll on the defense. And man, just what a special time! What an awesome game! I mean, we could sit here and BS about the entire game again, I'm sure. But just what a wonderful occasion! You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's been awesome. And you talk about playing for John O. I got to meet Coach O'Grady my first year on staff there, and he was our kind of like a special teams liaison, special teams consultant at the time. And but it's a lot of fun learning about the history and of the program, because he's obviously been a legendary figure throughout the WIAC. I feel like he's coached at like 4 or 5 of the WIAC schools in general, and you guys ran the triple option, and I'm just thinking, man, were you potentially maybe the best dive player ever to do something like that in Division 3?
I have no idea, but I do know that when my football journey was ending in high school and trying to find a spot to go, I really didn't have any options. And I had seen, well, Coach O'Grady hadn't seen me in a while. The last time he saw me, I think I was in 5th grade, and I was a chubby kid with some Coke bottle glasses. And my grandfather said, well, if you want to play football, you got to learn how to block and block. So I went in as an O lineman, that first camp. And that's where I really learned the game of football. And so Coach O'Grady got to see me when I was in 5th grade, and then he got to see me as a senior in high school, and he was like, like, good God, what happened to you, man?
That's awesome.
And we kept in touch that year. And he said he'd help me out with anything, and he truly was awesome throughout the whole process. He even made some calls for me to schools, but nothing came to fruition. And I was sitting there like, hey, man, I still want to play football. I mean, doesn't matter where. I just still want to play it. The passion's still burning inside of me, So he gets me into River Falls, and there was a very to play that position in that offense. There's only a few rules. You got to be pretty tough, right?
Yeah.
You got to be tough. But you got to hit the hole the same way every time, right? That's what makes it work. So it doesn't matter if you're getting the DNs crashing the whole game and beating you up. You gotta never quit. And I remember, I think we were playing Whitewater, and I was getting a little irritated. I wasn't getting, they weren't giving me much in the middle, and I was just getting wrecked by the DN. And I think I went in there kind of like a cream puff one time, and he pulled me off the side and he said, if you ever play like that ever again, you will never play for me another down.
Oh,
So I
that's
knew from that
awesome.
point it was all toughness.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Uh, what was the bar of choice in River Falls at the time?
Dude, I can't even really remember. I was a
maybe that's
freshman, all
maybe
right?
that's a good thing.
I
Yeah.
was a
Oh, sure.
freshman. So,
Yeah, true. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
you're a
so
freshman, so
I was you know what? We were, and I don't know if the football house is still there, but at one point there was a football house, and that's where the action went down.
Yeah. So I don't think it's called the football house anymore, but I believe that same house is now called Swamp, and guys live at Swamp. So I
Yeah.
think it's still a thing, but I think it's the same house if I'm not mistaken. You've said on Twitter you've been a big advocate for Division III on social media and whatnot. And you said in one tweet, as a guy who played 1 year in Division III, then transferred to D1, then drafted to the NFL, it was just as passionate, if not more. And I trained and prepared the same way at all levels, but size was the difference in that whole thing. Can you expand on that a little bit? Because I think there's so many people that don't understand how talented this level is, and really all levels of football are, that there is truly just some genetic things that just separate those guys that go to, Division I FBS versus, maybe a Division III or Division II school.
Yeah. You know, the, I say, it's passionate, if not more passionate, because at the Division I level, and, now it's even crazier because guys are, the bait is the money, right?
Right.
Um, but back then it's more about, and even when I went to West Virginia, nobody's checking your classes, right? Nobody's making you go to workouts. Nobody's, making sure you're getting to practice or you're going to be at the team meeting on time or this or that. It's all you, right? It's all self accountability. So the passion, in my opinion, has to be there more than anything because, uh, you don't have somebody, looking over your shoulder telling you, hey, man, you need to get to class, or hey, you got to do this, you got to do that. It's all on you. Same thing with the weight room. You know what I mean? Yeah, you have lifting times, and I'm sure it's changed since Matt's been there, but when I was there, it was like they had 3 lifting times, you just kind of showed up. It wasn't like, a full blown team workout. It was kind of like you're just going in there to get a workout, and you might have had like a buddy or two, that was with you. So, and then now that you guys got that fancy dancy athletic facility. I mean, I've seen the weight room. I'm like, man, I wish we would have had that back when that was going on. So, I mean, those are the types of things. Plus the size difference. I mean, you just and you could say size and speed, but I'm going to say this: everybody at Division III is competitive, just like at Division I. They want to be there, right? They want to play. That's why we're still, that's why we're still there. I have a hard time sometimes getting through to younger players, high school players, describing to them about the different divisions. And really, what it comes down, uh, for me, what I try to get them to understand is like, look, if you love playing football, if you still have competitive edge and want to play, there is, there's tons of places that you can go, right, and compete. Um, Now, facilities wise, yeah, it's not going to be a D1 program. I also made a tweet about, River Falls facilities rivaling D1 facilities. And I mean that. Look, they have every amenity you would ever want at a Division I facility. Every amenity. Um, Obviously they don't have the size of the stadium, but they have everything that you'd want at this, top tier program at these Division III levels. Now, not everybody does, right? I'm sure that's definitely helped in recruiting for RF for the last couple of years since they've had that. Um, you know, getting back to the main question, uh, you know, you have to want it. Right. And it's easy to say you want it when you're getting paid, right? Or there's a big dollar figure there. It's just harder to do it when it's the self discipline, self accountability. I mean, I'd like to almost see the number of D3 players, athletes in general, that get hired to jobs. It's probably a higher job percentage that they get it just because they know, look, this is all self accountability. It's
Yeah.
not, you don't, like I said, I could reiterate 100 times. There's no GAs running around checking classes, making sure you're going right. You got to keep your grades up. You got to make sure that you're eating the right things and keep your nutrition, your fitness, all that good stuff. It's all on you. And I think that's why I made that comment, and I'm, I truly mean that.
Yeah. Obviously, then you go into West Virginia in a really historic run with West Virginia during that time. Obviously, Fiesta Bowl championship. And what was kind of that process getting to West Virginia? Because obviously, you went and had a fantastic freshman year, but I'm sure that was only half the battle. Trying to knock on some doors and kick the door down at some points, trying to get into a West Virginia type of school.
Yeah. So the big thing was, asking Coach O'Grady, right? Hey, Coach, after the season, hey, um, that was the hardest thing I think for me because he fought so hard for me to get there, uh, and asking his blessing, to move to the next level and kind of like what he thought about it, and he understood. It wasn't the first time that he's dealt with a player. Um, I guess that's happened to before. Maybe not one that's gone to River Falls and then left, but guys that have just asked for his advice. So, uh, I do that. I make a highlight film, right? VHS tape, baby. You know what I mean? I got a I got a handful of VHS tapes, and my mom and I just kind of and I had a process where I kind of eliminated certain teams. And my goal was obviously, hey, I want to play Division 1. That's if that's where I'm going. I mean, I had no plan B. Um, so just drove up and down the East Coast a little bit, dropping films off mostly around the Northern Virginia area, and and from like Shippensburg, from like D2 schools to obviously Division 1, Virginia Tech, UVA. I even did JMU, and then Virginia, and then also uh, um, Maryland as well, and then Virginia, or West Virginia. So just dropped the films off there. West Virginia was the one that gave me some love, and I was able to go there and exchanged emails, did basically like a drive by of the campus, dropped the film off, just wanted to make sure the coach saw me, and then from there Donnie Young got a hold of me through emails and got me. They said they obviously couldn't offer me any money, but they got me into school, and then that's what ended up happening.
Yeah, and then you become, you walk on, and then you're a starter, right? Your sophomore year, obviously in that fullback position. I'm curious, with watching Caleb this weekend at all, does he remind you of Pat White whatsoever?
Yeah, there was a point for me in the game. I'm like, man, you know, obviously after winning the accolades that he's won this year, and people probably wanting to kind of see him shine. It was like second half, he really just was like, look, man, I'm gonna make this happen. So he's kind of put a little bit more pressure on himself, started making plays. He's so quick, man. So quick, very accurate in his throws. From what I had watched, especially through the playoffs, because that was the most film that I had gotten to watch. He wasn't as active as a runner, but in the championship game, in that second half, he just really took off, and you could see the definite similarities. He's obviously a dynamic player, and to be honest with you, the field conditions probably weren't in his best interest because it was frozen and slick. You know what I mean? So, but I could absolutely see correlation between both those players, and and it was very apparent on Sunday.
Yeah, I want you to walk us through your NFL journey a little bit because it's unique because you don't see a lot of guys go from Division 3, then go to Division 1, light it up at Division 1, and then go to the NFL. What was it like hearing your name called, obviously, don't once you got to the NFL, because they don't even use fullbacks kind of like they used to. And so, what was that experience like?
Oh man, you know, a dream come true. You know what I mean? Growing up a Packer fan, living in Gilman, so come from a small town, and just being able to, West Virginia was a dream come true for me.
Hmm.
And then to hear my name called, and get the opportunity to play, was next level. Like you said, fullbacks were kind of on the outs. They still kind of are. The game is just kind of evolving. But I can totally see them coming around. Even if you look at the playoff teams that are in this year, the majority of the teams have a fullback on them. The game's getting more, it's getting, speed is more the influence. But the problem with speed is size comes down, right? Unless you have these genetic freaks like DK Metcalf or something like that, or Derrick Henry. Like you just, those guys are, anomalies.
Right.
But you're seeing these guys, linebackers used to be 250, 260 pounds. Now
Yeah.
they're more like 230, 225. A team that utilizes a fullback like Baltimore with Pat Ricard,
Yeah.
I
Right.
mean, he's a 300-pound fullback. I mean, that is a mess of a human back there. And, just, matchups, um, downhill matchups, a 230 guy versus a 300-pound guy, I don't care who you are, you're not going to be able to, I mean, he's going to move you every time.
Right.
There's going to be
Yeah.
movement. There might be a stalemate, but it's going to hurt. You know what I mean? There's not
Yeah.
the 230-pound guy's not going to be able to sustain that. I mean, it's physics.
Right. Yeah, you talking about breaking laws of physics. Yeah, that dude for the Ravens definitely defies some of those basic human nature laws that we run into here and there. I want to talk about what you got going on now because it's I love the book that you wrote, The Little Fullback That Could. Can you talk about that a little bit and what kind of inspired you to do something like that?
Yeah. So, uh, Cassie, my better half, right? She's my better half. She's a preschool teacher here in West Virginia at Smoot Elementary. She kind of was she was bugging me a little bit, kind of just poking at me a little bit to maybe hint the idea of trying to do something like that. And I said, well, I'm the kid that ate paint chips as a kid. I don't have, the skills to be able to write a book. She's like, well, it's just a children's book. We'll do something simple for the first one or whatever, and we'll do a counting book. And I laid out the progression. And it's basically my journey from uh, from Gilman, Wisconsin, and there's a portion of River Falls there, and goes from me transferring to West Virginia and then becoming an NFL player, and then ultimately, becoming a dad. And it's just a fun book. It's got Easter eggs in it, hidden. It's locally illustrated, and the artwork's been done by some of her family members, um, Rachel and Josh Hendricks. So it's just a cool, inspiring book. For Mountaineer fans, they'll get it. There's a little bit of, like I said, there's some River Falls action in there in the beginning as well, on page 4. But it's just a neat story, kind of the journey. And then for the kids, kids that are learning, just learning to read, kids that are learning to count. It's a great opportunity for West Virginia fans, obviously, just because of that's heavily what it is. But any fans or anybody who's ever kind of watched my career or just enjoys football in general, uh, that dads can get into it with their kids, and it's just a fun learning experience. It's a cool story as well, and hopefully inspires kids to live their dreams and shoot for the stars.
Yeah. You also co-host In the Gun with a couple guys. Can you talk about where that came from and what's the coolest part about doing that with those guys?
Yeah, so In the Gun is a podcast. Jed Drennan, he's a sideline reporter for West Virginia. He played quarterback back in the day. He played for Rich Rodriguez, and Wes Euler, he's a Pittsburgh Steelers um, radio guy, and then I also have Skylar Callahan, who does our graphics and our kind of do it all, jack of all trades. He also works in the Charlotte sports media area. It's just Jed kind of had a crazy idea. You know what's funny is we started that podcast before uh, Coach Rod even came back to West Virginia, so it was like it was so crazy when the university ended up bringing him back. So just a you know Jed, if you've ever listened to the podcast, Jed Drenning is his brain. I mean, he was meant to be a quarterback. His brain functions at over a computer intellect. I mean, he is
That's
able to
awesome.
retain information from archives of the little brain folds in his mind. Like he can just pull them out of his hat. He's got an unbelievable um, you know advantage and an unbelievable idea of the game of football, and understands you know doing the film scouting and understanding how to rate players. He does a great job of scout breakdowns and team breakdowns. He understands the coverage. I mean, he's the football guru. Wes and I are kind of color commentary. I mean, I'm more of the football perspective. Wes gets it from his broadcasting background, and then Skylar is kind of like all in the works. He's doing questions from scouting to reporting. I mean, he that's his world. So it's just four dudes talking football. Mountaineer football, mostly Big 12 stuff. Um, definitely have to tell Jed we're gonna have to get Matt on, and
Oh
probably
yeah,
Joe as well. We'll probably
yeah,
we'll get the whole gang, man. We'll get a bunch of guys. It's just good to shoot the shit and talk football, and that's kind of what In the Gun's about.
yeah. Yeah, it feels like that class of West Virginia guys just are just content, maniacs now. Obviously, former teammate Pat McAfee, very obviously well known. It's fun to. I mean, it was surreal to see River Falls being talked about by on that show because I'm such a huge fan and definitely a huge inspiration of what we do with D1 Rejects and Small School Saturday, and to hear him like shout out River Falls, I'm just like blows my mind. And so it's just it's been such a cool year. I think the other cool part about it is it's brought all these different generations together. Like I don't know if a million years that maybe you and I would cross paths, or me and like I mean, I met a lot of the guys from like the last conference championship team back in like 89 this year, or 80 or 90 98 I believe. And so this year it's just so cool to see everybody kind of come together and support the Falcons, support the crew. But yeah, definitely Coach Walker, he is a fantastic guest, and I'm sure he'll be more than willing to do something like that. But um, Owen, I can't thank you enough. Thank you. I just want to say thank you for continuing to support River Falls, even though obviously you're only there for a year. But you're the absolute man. It's fun catching up with you, and appreciate everything you do for football, man.
Man, I appreciate it. And hey, Small School Saturday, man. Hey, keep fighting, brother. I'm telling you, I love it, man. I love
It's
it.
it's such a it's obviously our take on college game day, but man, there's something about it that especially this past show, it was our best work, and it's been so much fun. But I appreciate the kind words on that. So
Hey, if you build it, they will come. Hey, who knows,
yes,
man? That's something,
yes.
maybe McAfee will, I might have to nudge him a little bit. Maybe he can give you some words of wisdom there.
We would take that all day long. That would be absolutely phenomenal. But yeah, we would take you up on that any day of the week. Anytime. But we'd love to see the place in person too. Just to watch how that whole sausage just made it would be absolutely fantastic. But again, Owen, can't thank you enough. You're the absolute. Are you still driving for UPS?
Yeah, I actually I just moved buildings. I'm here in Lewisburg.
Okay.
I'm an on road supervisor down here in Lewisburg, so I train drivers now.
Nice.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
awesome. Well, I appreciate you, man. You're an absolute gem.
Hey, thank you for having me, brother. And hey, go Falcons, man. National
Absolutely.
champ,
Go
baby.
Falcons.